Locals will also benefit from temporary contracts thanks to the devolution conference.
Affected by the government agencies that are given this responsibility, and we are being qualified, especially on those protocols that govern the COVID requirements protocols.
We are very anxious to at least to accommodate as much clients as possible. The facility is well spaced and spacious with fresh air. At least we have very standard rooms, at least we have a very standard restaurant. The kitchen is all a la carte and maybe by order menu, whereby you can get fresh food from our butchery.
We are hoping that the business will be very, very, very good for us. And we are ready, we have enough staff, we have done enough stocks. So basically we are ready, and we are ready to accommodate up to even 600.
Some good news there for Makueni counties and the larger Ukambani region counties. But let's now go to our top story, the one that we had prepared for you today. So the Kenya Revenue Authority has, for the first time in 8 years, surpassed its set revenue targets. KRA collected 1.66 trillion shillings in the financial year 2020-2021, against a target of 1.65 trillion shillings. The revenue growth was largely driven by customs and border control departments, whose revenues grew to 624.77 billion shillings, which was 18 billion shillings more than the targeted 606 billion shillings. Some good news. So let's now get you much of those numbers right there on your screen. You have been seeing the performance. Of course, we're trying to just give you a breakdown of what it looks like in the taxman's gallery right there. So 2022 financial year, the total revenue in July, that was 121.8 billion Kenya shillings. That has never been seen before. So non-tax revenue amounted to 348 million shillings. Domestic borrowing is at 123.6 billion shillings. So a majority of people, of course, are looking at that and they're saying KRA is quite on to something with this one. So the total expenditure is at 71.2 billion Kenya shillings. Of course, this is now the breakdown of what it has been, allocated in different departments, different ministries, different state agencies. Education takes the biggest chunk at 24 billion Kenya shillings, followed by Interior Ministry at 8 billion Kenya shillings. The defense, of course, matters of national security and all that, costing us around 7.9 billion Kenya shillings. National Intelligence Services, 2 billion Kenya shillings. Let's now get you more numbers on the same as we continue to look at what KRA has been able to achieve for the year. So that's the last one right there. We will be giving you much more on the same to bring all this into a logical conclusion. But now I want us to take a special feature done by my colleague Noah Kipkemboi. A majority of people hope that one day they will take a break from working, either necessitated by age or by choice. The state and quality of life in retirement is not determined by personal choices, but for some, and policies that have affected their pensions. KTN's Noah Kipkemboi reports on the challenges that come with retirement and how to prepare oneself for this eventuality. At the same time, he brings forth the untold tales of retirees. Take a look.
Retirement. To some, it is a time of rest, relaxation, traveling the world, pursuing your passion. But to others, it is a time of pain, unable to meet your basic needs of healthcare and even shelter. How do you prepare for it? What are the challenges that do come with retiring in Kenya, and how do you avoid them?
The understanding of pension is that you are paid a pension to enable you maintain your social standing and status even after you retire.
It's very embarrassing to know the kind of PS, the pensions PSs are getting. My own PS has not even reached 15,000 a month.
We come back home with nothing. We go to the hospital. If you have not paid your NHIF, you are doomed. You have nobody to take care of you.
Some former colleagues who have been forced to beg or even borrow before they get the pension.
It's advisable when one gets closer to retirement to start to build up a little bit more of cash and less of illiquid assets.
Retirement seems far for many, especially in a country dominated by youth who constitute over 60% of the population. Have you thought about retirement, and if yes, under what context?
For me, I haven't. I won't lie on that. Because of our working environment here in Kenya, especially when you are self-employed. Yeah, we work on probability. You don't know whether today you are getting business, so we live by God's grace.
Nimefikiria lakini ni retirement kwanza, ni hustle, then nijiweke job yangu.
Okay, me I think someone should, like, let's say when you start working, you should be saving like at some point and start investing. By the time you get old, you should have invested at some places so that you can just relax and spend your money.
Simon Wafubwa is the managing director of Nwealth, a pensions advisory firm.
We will all at some point find ourselves at certain ages where we are vulnerable, we cannot continue to work because the bodies are not as strong like we used to be. And at that stage, it requires of us now to transition from work to go into retirement.
He says one of the biggest transitions as one retires is the financial state.
So you realize that while one is working, every end of the month you go to your bank, salary has been wired, and maybe you are used to income levels of 100,000 per month or 200. So in your psychological steady state, you are expecting 100,000 per month. And that you are used to for 30 years, 20 years you've been working. At this point, if you have been lucky to save for retirement, you get what you call a cash lump sum. And that cash lump sum sometimes distorts people's psychological equilibria. So you get about 10 million. It's really huge cash lump sum. You are used to monthly cash lump sum manageable at 100,000. So Lechetelia's principle, a system that is in steady state, when there is external pressure, will adjust itself to go back into that steady state of equilibria. This guy would now look for mechanisms of how do I quickly reduce my 10 million to that steady state. And you find decisions like, let me go to Mombasa kupigia mwili pole.
Meet Leila Kula at her old working place at the Kenya Law Reform Commission, where she was the principal librarian before retiring a month ago.
I started off as a clerk in the library, but I've risen through the ranks by going for various trainings.
With a career spanning 4 decades as a civil servant, retirement has always been in her mind.
I started thinking of retirement about 15 years ago. The first thing I wanted to prepare myself was where was I going to retire? And this is a conversation I had with my husband, and we felt that we should have a home somewhere near Nairobi where we can, because we've grown up in Nairobi, we've had all our education, our children in Nairobi, so we felt we wanted a place where which is easier to get to Nairobi. At the same time, we wanted a place where we could do some farming, because my husband has a passion for farming. So we decided to settle in, buy a farm in Machakos,
From her experience, the change in financial frequency when one transitions into retirement often puts retirees in a financially straining position, and one becomes cash-strapped.
Before you retire, and immediately after you have retired, you don't have some money. If you are not putting something aside, you don't have some money, and life has to continue. Here's where I've seen from some former colleagues who have been forced to beg or even borrow before they get the pension, such that now when they get that pension, they are now repaying the loans, they are repaying the madenis that they have been getting from relatives, from friends.
In Kenya, according to the Retirement Benefits Authority, the income replacement ratio at retirement is below 40% compared to the recommended ratio of 75%. Income replacement ratio is a measure of the adequacy of your pension benefits to replace your last income before you retired.
If you are retiring on a salary of about 100,000 per month, then your minimum pension should not be less than 40,000 per month. So that in that monthly pension, you should be able to take care of your medical bills, take care of your necessities in the house.
A demographic of retirees hit hard on pension are civil servants who retired between 1991 and 2005. Now aged between 70 and 90 years, the war on increased pension is slowly wearing them down. John Washira came into civil service at independence in 1963 and served until retirement in 1999.
We found ourselves doing so low pension because our salaries were very low compared to those people who are now currently going after salaries were reviewed, after the economy improved so much and salary levels were very, very, very high. So that in fact we found ourselves being paid pension so low, much, much lower than what our juniors are getting because their salaries are high. So we made a case to the Salary Commission. The Salary Commission understood our issue, and they made definite recommendations that from 1991 to 2005, in between then, salaries were very low and there was no review. So that we can be at par with our counterparts, they recommended we be paid a one-off pension increase to bring us nearer or at par with our counterparts who are going currently.
Very well then. Pertinent questions being raised there about our preparation towards retirement. Are you saving towards your retirement? Young people, particularly young professionals in this sector, should be asked really, are they saving up for retirement? I want us to take part 2 of that special story right there by my colleague Noah Kipkemboi, still focusing on the issue about retirement. Enjoy, but most of all, learn.
One-time all-powerful state operative knows it too well.
People are losing feet.
We link up with former Provincial Commissioner Joseph Kaguthe, who retired in 1999. He is now a frustrated man, with pension being at the heart of his tribulations.
The group 91 to 205 is very embarrassing to know the kind of PS, the pensions PSs are getting. My own PS has not even reached 15,000 a month. How much do you think I get? Last year it was very big here because I clocked 20,000 a month. Then I look at this one of Honorable Maraga, is it Maraga? Chief Justice. 4 years is costing Wajiko 1 million a month. And I said, what is it? Is it jealous? Or shall we not be forgiven as past civil servants for saying that there is some evil spirit on that line? Yeah, because you serve the same constituency, the same Wajiko.
The Kenya Association of Retired Officers accused the government of neglect.
Incidentally, the documents that were produced by SRC were launched by the president himself in 2015, which means from that point they were handed over to the National Treasury. Why the National Treasury has not responded, we don't understand. But it's 5 years down the line, pensioners continue to suffer. The government, for reasons we don't understand, has refused to implement that package. And nobody is saying the reason why.
Other than the delays and low pension payouts for retirees, in comes another big challenge.
You start getting sick, you start getting ill. And the fact that when we are working, you have a medical cover, which means when you're not feeling well, you just go to hospital and you're treated and the insurance covers that. But now you find you're now not on that insurance, you do not have the medical insurance, which means you'll resort to either going to maybe over the counter, and maybe some illnesses do not require the over the counter. You really need proper medical checkup.
I've experienced a time of getting sick, spending a lot of money in the hospital, buying drugs, and so forth.
We go to the hospital. If you have not paid your NHIF, you are doomed. You have nobody to take care of you.
Due to the pandemic, family members lost medical covers after employers stopped remitting medical premiums, resulting in nearly half of retirees paying medical bills using cash, while 32% used insurance.
Often, that when people get to retirement, they are extremely asset rich, but cash poor. So they are rich poor. They are rich in illiquid assets like land, real estate, but they are extremely poor in terms of cash. Cash is king. Cash is a lifeline of meeting your immediate financial obligations, and it's advisable when one gets closer to retirement to start to build up a little bit more of cash and less of illiquid assets.
Some retirees are dependent upon with their young families, to others still being sole providers to their extended families.
The fact that we're retired, it does not stop them from asking and seeking and requiring that they should be supported.
I think needs will never stop, in my view, and we should not take the place of God in people's life. Try as much you can help, but don't really help to the level you break your back. It's not advisable.
Studies reveal that when the burden on retirees heightened during the pandemic, 35% turned to expensive loans, with the most common source being digital lenders. The gazettement of the Retirement Benefits Mortgage Loans Amendment Regulations of 2020 notes that Kenyans can access up to 40% of their accrued benefits for residential house purchase, provided the sum shall not exceed 7 million shillings. This is part of reforms out to allow Kenyan workers to have an early access to their pension, thus giving millions a chance to own a decent home before hitting retirement.
Because I've had very sad stories where an employee did not prepare for retirement. They did not even have time maybe to put up a house, and now they're waiting for that money so that they can put up a house. And then this money is not enough. The pension is not enough even to complete the house.
It might be helpful to actually look at housing solutions where you are staying to reduce your rental cost than putting money in the village in a project called a house that you're not staying in. How about you use that same cash to buy a house here in Nairobi so that you don't pay rent? Next time you retire home, you can actually convert that same that same house in Nairobi for rental income to actually value add to your income at retirement.
Incidentally, when I was schooling, actually I wanted to be law.
In the 1 month she's been retired, Leila has learned a critical lesson.
As you retire, think of the period immediately after, put some savings aside, some money that you can use before your pension comes, and immediately after you retire, when you get your pension, you should also have some money to keep you going, because the pension alone is definitely not enough.